Hey everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Cooldown. We're your hosts, Jason Lapine and Andre Samuels, the beautiful one.
What up?
Like that?
I'm obviously beautiful now, eh?
Yeah, you're beautiful.
I came back for a second episode, so now I'm beautiful.
You passed the first
right.
one.
Although,
yeah, so I mistakenly said I'm the host last week. So apologies.
I can't believe you're actually mentioning this. You're making me feel so
Apologies
shallow.
for that.
Okay.
I didn't want to offend you. Do you feel more included now?
Yeah, I feel so included now.
All right.
I was like crying at night.
I
woke up in the middle of the night in cold sweats.
Oh shit.
I'm just like, cold.
Okay,
you know?
so we got that covered. But this is the second time. As you can see, we're on a new set. Well, sort of new set. We got some comfy chairs.
Yeah, slowly.
Yeah, building up the production of this show. So thanks again for coming back tonight. We've got four topics for you guys. We're going to be breaking it down. Those topics, you ready for this? We've got, do sports games have it easy in eSports?
Yes.
That's going to be the first topic. Then we're going to go over Overwatch League again. Is Overwatch catching up to the big players? Hang on, what did I write? I can't even read my own writing. Overwatch catching up to the big boys, but are they there yet? That's what I had said. And then we're going to get into the third topic, which is, does esports have a place at E3? We got E3 just around the corner, so we're going to be talking about that. And then lastly, we're going to wrap it up with Smash Brothers. Why is Smash the bastard child of esports, or is it the bastard child of esports?
It's actually the ugly sister you never want to fool around with. That's what I feel like.
I don't want to fool around with any of my sisters.
I know by saying this. Well, no, your friends. Friend sisters. Yeah, but honestly, I know people are gonna hate me to death for just being the, you know what I mean, just being that guy that's gonna have to just mention it and say it. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of their following, of their fans. I'm gonna say what needs to be said. But that's the last topic.
So this might be the last episode of the Cooldown.
It probably is, yeah.
Because Andre is going to get crucified.
But at least you'll get some truth. At least you get some truth.
I don't know about truth.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's the things that people don't want to say.
Anyways, let's get started with.
Yes.
Ready? Cooldown.
You followed. I just can't do that. I'm sorry. It's just too cheesy. Cooldown. No, bro. It's too cheesy.
It works. You need confidence to do it.
On 3, 1. Should we do it one more time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
why not?
1, 2, 3.
Cooldown.
Oh my! You better edit it just so when we no counting up to it. You know what I mean?
I'm leaving all that in.
Oh, this is horrible. Oh man, can you imagine? Here we go.
No, we did enough times.
All right, here we go.
All right, topic.
One more time.
First topic: do sports game have it easy in esports? Now we're talking about these NBA games, NHL games, NFL games.
Yeah.
Do they have it easier in the esports community versus your non-sports games like League of Legends, Dota, Overwatch, all that good stuff?
Well, let's just narrow it down to, let's just be more specific, and let's just talk about the NBA 2K League.
It was beautiful.
Okay?
Book, by the way.
So you have to show it. I know you purposely bought that just for the show.
I didn't even buy it. It was a gift.
Oh my God. I guarantee you unwrapped it and you're just like, this is what I need to use in the show. Yes, it's a Game Boy book. He's excited. He writes his notes in it.
I want to see esports on a Game Boy.
Yeah.
Sorry about the topic. Yes.
Before you talk about your Game Boy,
I'm done.
Notepad.
Sports games.
Yes. NBA 2K, I feel like it has, it's very promising, and not just because every team that's part of it is actually affiliated to a NBA, an actual traditional sports franchise.
Right.
And it's every one of them. Every one of them is connected to an NBA franchise, which is huge for the industry, which is huge for esports. It's huge for the NBA 2K League.
Because they get to piggyback off of basically traditional sports. They're not building everything from scratch.
Absolutely. And also they're getting a lot of information taken from traditional sports. I know esports and traditional is a little bit different, but let's be real. It's basically the same backbone. You know what I mean? Another thing.
In terms of a structure?
In terms of everything. Just in traditional sports, you have, the physician, you have the coach, you have the, health, you have every category is basically being trickled down to also esports. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't think that there's a health or but there actually is.
So what do you mean by a health?
I mean what's that word I'm looking for? Oh, my brain is going empty now.
It's one thing, if you're saying health, I'm thinking player rotation.
No, not player rotation. I'm talking about an actual a physician, an actual doctor on set, on there in the.
Oh, okay, as part of the crew.
Yeah,
for the team.
Absolutely, yeah. So you actually have a doctor on
They have that in esports.
They have that in esports, absolutely.
I did not know that.
Overwatch League, I mean, I don't know if they already started, but I do know one team in particular.
Right.
Actually, they're not in the esports league, but they've made it to contenders. They're an actual team, and they actually have a doctor that talks to them about health, talks to them about exercise. These are important things. These kids are playing 12 hours a day.
Yeah, it's very, it's not an active sport either, esports. It's very, sedentary. So.
And not only that, I mean, it's a huge toll on your wrists, huge toll on your fingers. Like, there's actually, it's actually funny because one of the owners of a team was actually teaching people how to do certain types of hand exercise. Yeah, his name is Ryan Pallett. He's the owner of the Toronto Overwatch, Toronto esports club team.
So you're saying sports has the same?
Sports has this. Oh, well, that's natural. You have the absolutely. We're not really referees. I'm talking about like for the team specifically.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, we're getting off topic, but just to go back to the topic at hand is the reason why I believe that NBA 2K League is very promising is because their infrastructure that they're copying it from a traditional sports that's already been there for decades.
Right.
In addition, it's making sponsors and partnerships really easy. These people want to come on board.
Right. Well, the conversation's already there with the sponsors.
Yes.
Right. So to say you're sponsoring the team on the sports side, the traditional sports.
Absolutely.
That conversation's already happening. It's like, do you want to expand the brand over to the game side?
And it's so easy for I mean, as far as convincing these traditional sports to come on board, it's just like a fourth revenue stream. They have merchandising, they have ticket sales.
Right.
Why not have an online team now representing your coexisting real life team? You know what I mean? It just makes sense. The soccer league started way earlier. I know Formula One have an actual. I don't remember what team it was signed, but there's an actual player that plays online like Formula One online. He's actually signed to an actual team, an existing real life team.
Okay.
So I mean that's huge.
Right. So I think there's a few different levels here of when you say. Do sports games have it easy in esports? Right now we're covering sponsorships.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, look at this statistic, okay?
Yeah.
Why is it that Overwatch League has been around already for over a year?
Right.
Okay. And somehow the NBA 2K League have a lot more sponsorship and partnerships versus the Overwatch League. How come?
So how long has the NBA 2K League been out?
I definitely know that not as long as Overwatch League.
Okay.
I'm not gonna.
I mean, we can look it up.
We could look it up. That's why I don't want to actually, because I remember you gave this information to one of your friends, and he tore me a new one. I'm like, yo, I got to do my homework from now on. I got to make sure I don't just say things, because after seeing the video, I did see that I was, you know what I mean. Sometimes I get ahead of myself when I talk. I like to just, think that things are right in my head, but they're not.
Well, that's fine. We don't have the internet at our disposal here when we're doing this show. It's very much based on whatever points we've
absolutely
touched up on.
And we're doing our own research. Eventually, we're gonna have people doing the research for us. Just let's keep that in mind.
Of course, if you're watching this at home, of course you're gonna have access to more info than us.
But
anyway, the point is, you're saying NBA 2K League has been around longer.
No, the opposite. Overwatch League has been around longer.
Overwatch has been around longer, but NBA 2K League has more sponsorships already than Overwatch League.
Yes.
Therefore,
tons, by tenfold.
The model is proving that yes, sports games have it easier in esports, at least to get sponsorships.
And here's another aspect that until today I don't understand why no one is even pushing for this. But there's no celebrity presence in esports, and I don't. And for the death of me, I don't understand why. But
we talked about this last week.
Exactly. But in NBA 2K League,
yes,
there are professional athletes stepping up, and representing their team, representing the league,
right?
You know what I mean? Showing that, hey, this is freaking cool, this is amazing,
yeah.
And that's what sells tickets. That's what brings people. That's what makes viewers watch. Right. That's what sells. It's just it's good all around.
So are you just for some context? Are you a sports fan? Do you enjoy sports? Do you enjoy watching sports?
Okay, so that's a good question. I was going to say I'm not a big fan of playing the sports,
right?
But I definitely enjoy watching them. I feel like I'm more like I'll be honest with you, man. I'm more like a bandwagon type of guy. Like,
so if everyone else says it's cool, you think it's cool?
Not from that sense. From the senses, I don't really watch games. I mean, all my cousins and all my friends are gonna be like, I knew you.
Oh, so you watch the playoffs when
exactly.
It's
if the Leafs make the playoffs, and I'm like, yeah, Leafs.
You watch the sports' hype zone.
Exactly. There you go. Look at you coming from last episode.
Yeah, that's how you gotta tie it in.
That's basically it. Is I don't watch regular season. I could care less. If you ask me right now, name me 10 players on the Maple Leafs. Honestly, Matthews is all that comes to my mind, and
you're setting yourself up here.
And Kessler, which is he's not even on Toronto probably anymore. But that's my point. Is I don't.
So the reason I'm asking you this is because I do not like sports. Yeah. I do not like watching sports. I used to, but I just can't get into it. It's not interesting. So I would argue that this is kind of another topic that we could get into. Yes. sports games, yes, they have it easier for sponsorships in esports, but are they doing a disservice? And this is another question: are they doing a disservice to the whole esports industry because now they're piggybacking off the sports structure, which has been in place for decades?
Not at all.
But hang on. So now you have you have the video gaming industry. So esports players, I would argue, the foundation of esports player, I would argue the foundation of esports kind of comes back from StarCraft.
Yep.
Which I would argue, if you follow stereotypes, a lot of these players and maybe even viewers weren't into sports. So esports, I don't know if I can say this confidently, grew out of very non-traditional sports kind of game. You know what I mean? Like the Dota's, the League.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you. Is let me ask you first a question. Do you want to see esports mainstream?
Do I want to see esports mainstream? I want to see esports mainstream in a way that I can identify with it as a gamer. Because right now, the way esports has been building up has been modeled the way sports has been, and that has been a huge turnoff for me. As someone who has been passionate about...
Because you don't like sports.
I don't like sports.
Fine.
And esports smells more of sports than smells more of sports than video games.
More of traditional sports than video games.
Yes. When I look at esports, it feels very jock. It feels very sports-like. I'm like...
Well, hopefully the show's going to change that.
Hopefully, yes.
No, but this is what I'm saying, is if you want esports to be more mainstream and you want it to be more, not necessarily cookie cutter, but just very accessible, very, you know what I mean? People can notice it from far away.
Yes.
Then you have to you can't have the cake and eat it too. You have to give in. You have to have celebrities representing them. You have to have celebrities coming into the picture.
Yes.
Promoting them. I'm sorry to say it, but celebrities sell. They sell.
No, I see your point there, and I agree that...
So you can't say,
I agree that sports is, tying esports with sports, that's how you get it out to mainstream. I was working on this video game event, EGLX, here in Toronto, here in 2018.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to non-video game people, they were always asking esports is a big word. Are you guys gonna have NHL? And because they sound like this, right?
Yeah.
NFL. And
yeah.
I'm like, no, that's not esports. To me, that's not. It's a part of it.
Okay, so this is where I think you're getting off track here. Because let me explain something to you. Is you cannot ask.
Wow, they said that lasts for 2 hours.
Really, and you know what I mean? They just ruined the whole set. That's it. I'm out of here.
We need a better light next time.
Honestly, you can't expect NBA 2K League,
right,
which is an esports game,
right,
not to follow through the footsteps of a traditional sport. At the end of the day, it's based on, and it was created because of the traditional sports.
Right.
Okay.
Completely agree.
It would not exist.
Completely agree.
If it wasn't for the traditional sport that started.
So I would argue it's a different
that correlation has to happen. It has to be there. Okay.
Right.
Now, when it comes to League of Legends, Dota,
right,
do you want that to kind of separate themselves from that whole NBA 2K type of atmosphere? At the end of the day, esports means competitive gaming.
Right. So they can borrow, but right now it's being there's not enough video games in my esports as well. And I know that sounds ridiculous because all of esports is based on a video game.
Yeah.
But it feels I could argue it could still feel competitive while still being fun about it. For example, speed runs. Super Mario World speedrun is amazing to look at. It's fun. It's highly competitive. If you got two speedrunners going head to head, none of that feels sportsy. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's because that's pure gaming, video games.
Yeah.
It's still competitive, so it still hits esports.
Yeah.
You want to see a winner.
Right.
And I understand where you're coming from now.
And the reason that I'm bringing all this up, the sports and the esports, is our topic that we're exploring right now is, do sports games have it easy in esports?
Yeah.
And we've kind of said yes for sponsorships.
Yeah.
But the next point is, how does that play against player adoption? Sports games have it easy in esports to get traditional sports fans probably into it, or people who play those games.
Yeah.
But when it comes to building an audience, do they really have it easier because they're a sports game? Because if they're trying to get is it easier to turn gamers into followers of a certain esports game, let's say Overwatch, fairly new esports? Is it easier to adopt from the gaming crowd or to adopt from the mainstream, more 40-year-old dad who likes sports,
versus a person who likes traditional sports, for him to start tapping into
right?
NBA 2K
So
League?
which market's bigger and which one's easier to tap into? That's kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good question. If you're going to ask my honest opinion,
right?
I think that esports, the sports have a little bit of an advantage because they already have something to build off of. They already have traditional sports. They already have a fan base there.
Right.
It won't be hard for a guy in his 40s to start now viewing, and I'm sure it's going to happen. I mean, once the 40-year-old or the 50-year-old starts seeing his son watching like an eSports game, which is like soccer,
right,
or let's say NBA 2K, for example, and you know, the father, I guarantee you, or the 40, 50-year-old will be like, for the first couple minutes, he won't even realize that it's a video game, that it's not real.
Yeah,
you know?
So you think the 50-year-old dad or mom, I don't care, the 50-year-old, will be able to get into NBA 2K as a spectator? I don't believe that.
You don't believe it?
I cannot imagine. I don't see anybody I know who's into sports above 40, even 30.
But hold on. Do they play video games? That's the question. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the 50-year-old that plays games.
Right.
That's more into like that plays video games, not necessarily playing a sports game.
Right.
But he likes sports. He likes traditional sports.
He likes video games.
He likes video games.
Okay.
Will he now, because he sees it repetitively on TV or on streaming, or if his son's watching it, or you know, excited about it, will he get into it? And my answer is yes. I think he would. I think if Toronto, for example, Toronto Raptors eSports version, NBA 2K version, right? Toronto. I mean, I think they haven't. I mean, Toronto doesn't have a. They do have a name. I think it's usually just Magic. Like if it's like the Orlando Magic, it's just Magic Gaming.
Right.
Yeah, it's Magic Gaming. So it'd be Raptor Gaming, let's say. I'm not exactly sure if that's the name.
Right.
But would he like now be interested to see his team win? Even though it's not traditional sports, even though it's just online and it's just a video game, I think he would. Because like
that's a small demographic though. Like someone who likes video games, who's 50 years old, who likes sports.
Yeah, it is. It is
would
small.
Then get into
but every little bit counts. I think.
That's so. I don't think, okay, well, I mean, right now the sports games are all out there and they're not really going to reinvent themselves. There's always going to be a new FIFA, new NBA.
I mean, you'd be surprised they do reinvent themselves. There's a lot of difference, I mean, not recently, but if you look from 14 to 15, 2015, 2016, there has been some tweaks. Absolutely, yeah.
That are noteworthy?
I mean, most of it is gameplay. You know, graphics wise, it's, to be honest with you, it hasn't really changed that much.
Right.
You know what I mean? Between like, I would say 16, 17, and 18.
Right.
But gameplay wise, like there's new features, there's new type of moves you can make. Like it's getting more technical. It's getting more hands on by these professionals. Like there's a lot more to do now as a player.
So let me put it very simple.
Yeah.
You've got EA that launches a new, not EA, let's just say you've got a new NBA 2K19 coming out, and Blizzard launches a new eSports game next week. In 1 year from now, do you think it'll be easier for Blizzard to grow that audience, or for the NBA 2K19 crowd to grow specifically for that game title in 1 year? And my answer is it will be easier for Blizzard.
And my answer is it's going to be easier for the traditional for NBA 2K
to grow the audience size.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. I mean, you can look at the partnership. Why are sponsors jumping on NBA 2K versus jumping on Overwatch? It's not like Overwatch doesn't know what they're doing.
Right.
It's not like their lack of money or lack of knowledge. They literally have the infrastructure. They're just if anything, they're even more experienced. I feel they're a lot more when it comes to video games. That is, not when it comes to sports. You know, they have a lot more knowledge. So why aren't, you know, I have a whole list. Why aren't all these sponsors joining them?
But no, I'm telling you, sponsorships, they've got it covered. The sports games are stronger on the sponsorship side. So yes, they can get sponsorships easier.
Yes.
But they cannot grow crowds. It's harder for them to grow their crowds than a non-sports.
You're contradicting. Okay, so let me ask you a question then. If you're a sponsor, right, and you feel like more people are going to view the Overwatch League, why wouldn't you sponsor them instead of sponsor NBA 2K League?
So more people. So we're saying, let's say Overwatch. Why aren't the sponsors jumping on board with Overwatch?
Absolutely. If you think more eyes are going to be on Overwatch, why don't they? Why isn't, for example, Skill Series?
This is what I'm telling you. It's easier right now to go to the sports game because the relationship is there, the market is there, the sponsors have more confidence in it. It's a proven model.
You just answered. They have more confidence in it. That's my point.
Yeah, but these are two pieces of the conversations. Sponsorship, it's easier to get for a sports game.
Yes.
Growing a crowd in the gaming world, it's easier to build it amongst gamers than to go into the older demographic that likes sports and video games.
I disagree because in sports they have both pieces of the pie. They have gamers that will get into the game.
They have less gamers.
But but there still is gamers.
Smaller piece of the pie, sure. Yes.
Okay, fine. But then they also have people that like sports.
Right.
See, me, I happen to fall into both those categories.
Right.
I like games, video games, and I love sports.
Right.
So I have no problem watching NBA 2K League or even trying to play and trying to qualify. But I'm not good enough, so I will never actually try. Yeah. But a kid who's 13, 14 years old, who's really good at the game, who has good stats,
right,
he'll get into it. A person who is not that good at the game, but likes watching traditional sports, he's now going to also, you have a better chance of grabbing him to watch NBA 2K League, right? Now, you, for example, don't like sports.
Right.
But you still know about NBA 2K League.
I know of it.
You know of it, but that's my point. You still know of it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, now think of the other end of the spectrum. A guy who doesn't care for video games, but likes sports, will he know about League of Legends, for example?
Like, less likely.
Less likely, of course.
But I'm saying the crowd of my side is, there's more of us, is what I'm saying. And I mean,
you think there's more of you than people that watch sports? In general, sports?
No. So we're talking people who like sports that play video games.
Forget about people that play video games. I'm talking about just people that like sports.
No, I'm not saying there's more of us than them.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm talking about even the people that like sports.
Right.
There's a better chance of grabbing them into the NBA 2K, is what I'm saying.
Into the NBA 2K.
What's the difference? One's virtual, one is real life.
If you have 1 million sports fans, and this is all good. Like, this could all be proven with stats. I don't have access to stats.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have access. I'm just going basically on my opinion and what I think makes sense.
1 million sports fans.
Yeah.
I would estimate about 20 to 30% of that crowd care or know of sports
of NBA 2K League.
Of video games.
Of video games.
Of the video game, or care about the video game equivalent. So now you went from a 1 million pool to 200,000 to 300,000.
Okay.
And then out of those that play video games, how many of those care about the esports component? Maybe that's 50%. So it's such a subset of this bigger pool. So when the sponsor's coming in, they see the million. They don't understand that it's a small portion of the million. But when you're talking about,
come on, dude. What these sponsors don't know, they know, bro. Are you kidding me? All this money that they're throwing out, you think they don't know? They do research and they know. It's
a tie-in though. Like, they're already sponsoring the sports game.
I guess the only reason why I have so much why I feel so confident with what I'm saying is my only backing is the fact that there's over literally 30 to 40 sponsors that are part of the NBA 2K League.
Right.
And I'm not talking about just like small time. I'm talking about like Dunkin' Donuts, FedEx.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? Hot Pockets,
we're
IBM. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
These are like serious names that are jumping on board.
I hear you. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, we're gonna have to come back to this topic because we are out of time for this topic.
Yeah.
But let's come back to this with more data in a future episode.
Absolutely.
To back it off. Sound off in the comments below what you guys think. Do you think sports games have it easier in esports? And I like to look at it in two ways: sponsorships and growing an audience around the game.
Yes.
Let us know if you think. I'm saying yes for sponsorships, no for crowd size.
I'm saying yes all around. Yes, all around.
So let us know what you guys think, and we're going to revisit this with more data. I need some of this refreshing water.
I know, I got to get some Hulk action over here.